Hi everyone. So it's just been announced on today's reset on Global that we will be receiving Divine Alexander's event on May 28th. So yeah, they're just like going ahead with it without the whole stream slides thing. Of course, we'll have more details, but if we're following the timeline, we're going to get Golbez's LD in Burst and a rerun of Hope's LD. And if you're interested in them, there's your chance. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. What I want to talk about today is what arrives with Divine Alexander, which is the High Armor Plus. So with the beginning of Divine Alexander, we'll be able to realize some of the 7-star armors, or Lufenia armors, transforming them into 8-star Lufenia Armor Plus, or I don't know. Most people commonly refer to it as just the blue armors, and for simplicity's sake, I'm going to refer to them as blue armors moving forward in this video. So, what are blue armors exactly? So, blue armors are the new kind of mechanic or next step in the whole progression of our stats, which is basically evolving our Lufenia armors to have more effects, which I'll be getting to in a bit. But before that, who gets blue armors? So blue armors, like when regular Lufenia started and the whole Lufenia armors began being released, they will usually come out with the featured units of the event, and on occasion, some of them will be released as batches outside of the event banners. I don't have them memorized, and I don't really want to, because I've seen on the global side at least that we've had some variations and time traveling ones. Like the one I can think of is like VV's Keystone coming early. Like JP didn't get that until they got his LD on their side. Anyway, most blue armor releases will be usually given to units with LDs already, because their functionality basically doesn't jive with an EX Plus unit in this day and age. Especially in this day and age, man. An EX Plus unit in this time is really rough to do. Anyway, so how do you get blue armors? Now with each new event moving forward with Divine Alexander, we'll be having materials similar to the armor books and armor ingots. And basically what that means is this part right here. So the first thing you need to do is, well, one, have a Lufenia armor and have it maxed out to level 50. The next step you do is you earn the new materials that are similar to the armor pages, as seen in that picture there, and then you use it to create a miraculous tome of protection, which is, same rules apply, you just need 20 pages to create one book. And then you can use that book to realize the maxed out Lufenia armor. Upon doing that, you'll receive one Ultima Ingot of Protection, which is basically the equivalent of like the blue ingots that we have now. And they are used for limit breaking the now realized Lufenia armor that you have. So upon realizing one, you get a free ingot like the whole mechanic does. And I don't think there's any new way to farm it yet. And from what I understand, the only way you can get it is by spending 10 Lufenia tokens for 5 high armor nuggets. So that's roughly 10 armor nuggets per event if you're using them each time. Don't do this, by the way. It's not worth your Lufenia tokens to spend for nuggets. You're better off just like slowly but surely getting realization ingots from everywhere. So like I said, you need 3 ingots to fully limit break it, and upon doing so, you will receive the mighty Blue Armor Plus, which I will now explain what it does. So Blue Armor is basically like any new next step in equipment, increases our CP, which is just 10, so they're literally just saying, yeah, you're getting this extra, this is the obligatory CP increase, so you can get your old passive back and get the new one as well. But, okay, blue armors basically give all characters an increase to their Brave and HP damage limits. So, meaning at this point, everyone will have the ability to exceed their 10k Brave and go beyond 100k HP damage limits. So yeah, I don't know, Unity Keystone's kind of looking weak now. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'll get to them later. But anyway, these increases are kind of small, but they do add up over time, especially on like the longer fights, and especially with characters that like have multiple HP attacks in them. Anyway, the way they sell making a full realization for a blue armor is that the third limit break when you're realizing these has twice the increase as the prior increase. So what do I mean by this? Think of it as like at the first time you realize it, you receive a 2% increase. Actually, the easiest way to explain it is if you look at Golbez right here. Yeah, look at him. Look at his HP damage. It's straight up at 2. So if you look at Golbez, he had at limit break 0. He already has like a base 2, and then what you do is at limit break 1, it raises by 2 again. Limit break 2 does it again, and so that's 3 2s. You already have 6% increase from Golbez. Then at the final limit break, which is limit break 3, the final one, it raises it by 4. So that totals to a 10% increase. And also remember that the character still retains their previous passive of the Lufenia armor, because you have enough CP to equip it. And that would mean for Golbez's case, I already computed both actually prior to this, that his HP limit will have a total of 25% increase, which is seen at the value there. So big shout out to Remen the Decidia DB for doing the computations, as well as like going ahead and just giving the additive, the summation of all the increases on them. So for Golbez, he gets a 25% increase to his HP limit and a 45% increase to his Brave damage limit. And that sounds like a lot because it is. Anyway, I'll try going through the specifics of each high armor type and subtype. Well, anyway, I'll get to explaining that in a bit. So before we get to discussing the whole calculation portion of it, we need to go over 2 things that basically define how you're going to calculate it in general. If you look at the underlined numbers here, Golbez has a 3 and a 1, and Hope has a 2 and a 2. These numbers correspond to the Brave and HP damage limits respectively. So left number is Brave increase, and right number is HP limit increase. I think that's the basic gist of it. But I also want to go over the affinity ability on the right, which is the whole Brilliance versus Resonance debate. So to basically distinguish it, Brilliance is basically, it multiplies everything by 2, each limit break. And to explain that further, I actually ended up looking at every single high armor in making this video, and I realized these 2 things. The Resonance passive is basically, it increases everything that the increases it gains are given to the entire party. Granted, the increase given to the allies is slightly less than their own, but the idea is the design is for more party damage overall, with some like more benefits for the main holder of the blue armor itself, as compared to Brilliance, which is the increases are just for the character alone, and they compensate for it by giving the percent increase per limit break as doubled, so it's times 2. So considering that blue armor is more designed for like increasing damage output, so the TLDR of it is Brilliance is generally better suited for a passive you're looking for, if you're just aiming to improve that single character. So now I present to you one of the dumbest things I've ever created for a video. A math equation. Now don't be alarmed. If you look at it closely, the realizations from 0 out of 3 until 2 out of 3 are exactly the same. and there's like only one thing changing it once you reach the third realization stage. Anyway, so we start off with the type multipliers, which I discussed earlier. So like Golbez has a 3-1, Hope has a 2-2, and off the top of my head, I remember Reno has a 1-3 multiplier on him. So you choose whichever one that is, and that's pretty much it. That will be your base multiplier. And then you take into consideration if their affinity ability has the Brilliance or Resonance multiplier on them. It's kind of a yes or no question at this point. It's more of like, are they Brilliance? If yes, then multiply it by 2. If not, then don't multiply it by 2. And it stays the same, and the only thing you have to consider is the type multiplier itself. So, it stays the same for like 1 out of 3 and 2 out of 3. But once you get to the final limit break, which is 3 out of 3, I already said earlier that you have the... It actually doubles it once you reach the third realization, which I like to call the max limit break multiplier, or the MLB multiplier. And that's pretty much it. That's basically the computation for the increases. So, yeah, not as bad as as most people think it is, but it is like tedious to like constantly check what they get in exchange. Now we get to the part where I start describing each type of blue armors that's available in the game. So I classified them by their original Keystone when they were still Lufenia armors. And then I also grouped them by what their type multiplier was, which is like the 3-1, the 2-2, or the 1-3. And the yellow numbers you see there correspond to what their limits are when they're fully limit broken. So these are the 3-3 stats. So for the attacker Keystones, the funny thing is, every single one of them has the Brilliance passive, which is great because all of them have the ×2 effects, and what you're after when upgrading units like these is that you want to max them as much as possible. The main trend I'm noticing here is the ones with the 3-1 type multipliers tend to be ones that have like opportunities to constantly like unleash HP attacks on the enemy. So units like Yang, who have like tons of off-turn damage, Shadow, who counters every time something he dodges, Tifa, because Tifa, Golbez, who is actually the flagship of it. His kit is actually like based around multiple HP attacks anyway to begin with. And then there's Trey, Traps Galore, go ahead. Zell, whose LD eventually lets him take 4 turns in a row. Machina. Jesus Christ, Machina. Anyway, the 2 out of 2, I don't know what to say about them. They're like the even ground. But the funny thing is, they're running a trend here that most, if not all, of the magic attackers here get like spaced into 2-2, except for Strago and the twins. But anyway, yeah, these are characters that have like not exactly like fully follow up on them, but what am I talking about? Cloud of Darkness is there. Her burst is basically like Yang on steroids. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what else to add for the attacker Keystones. Oh yeah, I did notice with the Brilliance 1-3 guys, they're the characters that deal a lot of big either split or full AoE HP damage. So I think that's what they were going for. Anyway, next is the Tactics Keystone. I wanted to talk about the Tactics ones next because I don't know, personal opinion, I think they're one of the best ones to invest in because a lot of the Tactics Keystone characters are also double as damage dealers. And when they're not, they are some of the strongest debuffers and supports in the game. Just to name a few, Fran and Pain are like the 2 most recent ones I can see, and they are some of the strongest characters in the game on the JP side right now. And if you look at Auron, Jesus, Auron is basically what Gladio hopes to be. I'm not even kidding. Once Auron gets his LD, he is like insanely fun and strong. And he counterattacks on everything. And if you look at the lower right, at the Tactics Keystone, we have Xdeath, who basically says the laws of the universe mean absolutely nothing. So he's like, I'm gonna have 0 on my Brave and put everything into 4 HP limit. Which works for him. He's such a wonky character in how he fights that he can get away with a 4 HP damage limit increase. Alright, something I forgot to mention about that. If you guys notice the trend, the whole idea of the type multipliers is that it always equates to 4. I think Xdeath is basically the one that made me realize that. Next is Unity Keystone. Oh wait, sorry. Something I forgot to mention about the Tactics Keystone. Actually no, what I forgot to mention is this is where we start seeing the resonance discrepancies. So what I noticed is most of the resonance passives in the game they retain the increased Brave damage output for the entire party. But the decrease comes from the slight decrease I've noticed is that the HP damage limits of the characters are slightly less. And I think that's the main difference. I don't know what else to add to that, but that's pretty much it. Anyway, now we have the Unity Keystone. So Unity Keystone used to be one of the nicer passives on the Lufenia armors, because they basically gave the entire party the ability to like go beyond the 9998 Brave cap and basically reach 10k Brave hits. But seeing as how most armor realizations with the blue armors are basically going to do that for everyone, they kind of lose a lot of value. Not the most, but the thing is, you can stack them with everyone else, so that's the beauty of it. I don't know how the stacking works. For the longest time I've never seen like a Unity Keystone like mesh well with someone like an attack Keystone. But I think in this case, I might be wrong on this. I'm not really sure, but I think the better Unity Keystones at this point would be the ones that have like the Brilliance affinity on them, such as Kayn, Kuja, Noctis, and Bartz. I don't know why Prompto is on the Brilliance 3-1 3-1 side. It's so confusing why he went there, but anyway. So now we get to the support Keystone. So a lot of these characters have the resonance passive, so they won't get as much benefit from getting the blue armor treatment. But the thing is, the characters themselves are really good, so you could stand to maybe realize a few of them. Not the full per se, but you just get them to the 0 out of 3. And then we have the one outlier on this one, which is Leon. I actually had to look it up. For the longest time I thought Leon was like an attacker type. But he is a Brilliance support type 2-2. So yeah, he only grants himself the increase. Now we get to the Encouragement Keystone, which is the increases they give to the party are really good, and the passive effect in itself is really good because along with Divine Alexander, I believe Encouragement Keystone gets an upgrade that they raise the brave gain amount from 5% to 30%. So they kind of basically like counteracted the whole brave gain reduction auras that bosses now have in Lufenia. But anyway, in all honesty, I wouldn't mind like getting a blue armor for some of these characters, just like eyeballing them. Like Yuna's a really good one. Beatrix is also another good one once she gets her LD boards. Lena with her LD is absolutely nuts. Selfie is like the Square Enix Airlines dream. Warrior of Light is actually going to be really fun. His LD boards are like come with his blue armor, and it's really fun to use him once that happens. Anyway, what else? Yeah, that's actually that's pretty much my main point about this. Like the lesser keystone, the lesser attack oriented keystones are still good because the characters themselves are really good. So now we get to the part where I try to explain who should get their blue armors. Okay, I know it's going to be a bit of a hot take, but I believe one of the characters that really deserves to receive their blue armor is... And that's why I believe that character deserves their blue armor. But I think it might be a better idea to just like talk about how I'm going to be spending my realization materials for it. Let me set up some ground rules on how I'm going to go about the realization process. So first and foremost, you will never buy nuggets. That is my general rule for it. It's not a good return on investment, and you're better off just waiting out constantly realizing someone, which brings me to my actual strategy. So we're going to be receiving a book every 2 events because we get 10 pages per Lufenia clear. I mean complete. So we'll get 10 on one event and another 10 on the other, and that's the moment when we'll have the option to realize Lufenia armor. Now choosing who to blue armor doesn't need to be an immediate choice. You can use the timeline planner on either the Tomberry Troop or the one on Dissidia DB, and basically you can plan it out so that if you're interested in a unit that you want a blue armor, you can do the research on them thanks to JP4's site. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use 2 of my books on characters I want to call realization fodder, which I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with. So by realization fodder, I mean I'm only going to realize them for the ingot, and to an increased extent because I like using them. Like say I have the ones I commonly think about for just leaving them at 0 out of 3 would be someone in the either support keystone or the unity keystone. And then if I do that to 2 characters, so I have like 2 realization fathers, I already have 2 ingots. After that, once I find a character that I'm interested in giving the blue armor to, I'll wait out when they receive it, I'll realize them, and by that point I have 3 ingots for them ready. And what happens after is I can just instantly blue them. And that's basically going to be my process for how to like blue armor someone. Like have 2 realization fathers, and then the last realization will be for the one that I want to actually like fully upgrade. But if you're really interested in who I'm going to use my ingots on to fully blue, it's... Okay, that's the last time I'm going to do that joke, I promise. But anyway, I won't give a specific character, but I would suggest that most players would have the most return of investment on any character with a Brilliance passive on it. Because the main point of getting a blue armor is to increase their HP and Brave limits. Although personally, I'm guessing the top 2 like character types that I'd be interested in for a full realization would be characters in the Attacker Keystone, obviously, and the Tactics Keystone, because a lot of the characters there kind of double as damage dealers. Of course, there are always like a few outliers on who you'd want to fully blue out. This is going to be like a permanent thing, and moving forward we're going to be getting more and more materials to realize more people, and eventually we're going to reach the state of where we have enough excess to just blue who we want. That came out wrong. Anyway. And I believe that's the last part. That's all I have to say. So, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, comment who you'd like to comment who you would want the blue armor in the coming future if you already have like a plan in mind. Subscribe, of course. It really helps me. It helps me grow. And I believe that's all. So thanks again, and goodbye.